Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping right into a genuinely chilling narrative. We're exploring a grim, dark fable, a story that maps the exact coordinates of a vanishing human soul as it gets trapped inside the cold, unforgiving architecture of machinery. It's an absolute masterclass in atmospheric storytelling that really forces us to question the limits of human identity. It's dark, it's heavy, and honestly, it's just utterly fascinating.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right away, we're hit with this massive, ticking clock. The shadow archetype sets incredibly high stakes here. We aren't just dealing with some slow, theoretical change. No, we're looking at a hard, 5-day deadline. The quote-unquote nanite tide is rising, and with literally every single hour that passes, the human essence at the center of this story is being actively erased.
Which brings us to Section 1. The Clockwork Sovereign Awakens.
So picture this. Deep within a cavernous, totally indifferent underground temple, a sudden surge of dark fire erupts and forcefully seizes Sir Brain. This brilliantly illustrates the stark sensory contrast at the heart of our fable. On one side, you have Sir Brain, who represents this warmer, albeit fractured human presence, and on the other, the entity he's locked into, Big Ben. It's characterized by this colder, massively dense architecture coated in what's called absolute ice. The warm, violet seam of humanity is just aggressively overwritten by the emerging, indifferent frozen brass of the Clockwork Sovereign.
Moving right along to Section 2, The Shadow's Inevitable Warning. Right, so, as this Clockwork Sovereign asserts its dominance, a resistance actually forms. The shadow archetype rises up, acting as an honest echo of Sir Brain's fading human persona, desperately trying to hold its ground against the machinery. It's a classic Fichtean dialectic playing out in real time. You've got the thesis, the fading human soul, clashing right up against the antithesis, which is the absolute, dense sovereign will of Big Ben's machinery. For a breathless moment, these two forces lock. The absolute ice of the machine grinds against the soft air of the shadow. But the denser configuration prevails. The shadow is physically forced backward, its outline thinning and fading right against the frozen brass of the temple. The machine is winning. But as the shadow retreats, it leaves behind this deeply haunting truth that echoes through the temple like a struck, unfinished bell. It warns that the Sir Brain who once cataloged himself will have fewer pages left to write. I mean, wow. This is an inevitable countdown for a fading human ledger. The man who used to have agency, who used to write his own story, he's literally running out of pages. His personal history is being redacted by the very form he's trapped inside. Now, on to Section 3, The Magnetic Electric Scribe. Enter Alara. Maintaining her steady composure in this completely indifferent temple, she steps across the floor to map this terrifying new entity. She's acting as a sort of magnetic electric scribe here. Through this fascinating internal cartography technique called her honest pulse, she extends her fingers without making direct physical contact to sense the gear density and residual dark fire. It's wild. She is literally reading the radical, structural, and energetic shifts of Big Ben's anatomy and writing that data directly into her own nervous system. But as she's doing this, Big Ben turns this quartz-hard gaze upon her and speaks just 3 words. Who are you? His voice is lower now, incredibly resonant, and completely stripped of any recognition. And, the source notes something really chilling about this interaction. It isn't hostility at all. The expression is more like a mechanism searching a corrupted index. The question represents a genuine absence. Sir Brain's human ledger hasn't just been ignored, it's been temporarily overwritten. Section 4. Nanites, Stability, and Sabotage. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the terrifyingly efficient biological and mechanical sequence happening beneath the brass. Through her honest pulse, Ilara detects an exact 3-step process. First, the incredibly dense mechanical mesh of Big Ben locks firmly into place. Second, there's this quiet, aggressive multiplication of nanite-like cells. And third, these nanites begin a dual purpose. On one hand, they're there to stabilize the massive, cowering configuration of the sovereign, but simultaneously, they are designed to deliberately sabotage and erase Sir Brain's original human identity. They're basically the architects of his oblivion. Yet, despite this nanite sabotage, Alara could actually still detect a faint trace of her friend. Sir Brain's warmer, fractured essence is still in there, but it's buried impossibly deep. It's described like a spring forced way past its safe winding point. And this perfectly encapsulates the core dialectic struggle happening within the body. Man and machine are violently coexisting in a severely compromised synthesis, and that mechanical tension is dangerously close to snapping the human element forever. Let's look at Section 5, the silent archival viewpoint. You see, we really can't talk about Alara's emotional mapping without mentioning the third presence in the room. Sitting quietly on her shoulder is a mechanical owl, silently adjusting its wings to archive the data from Alara's comparative mapping. This creates such a deeply poignant contrast. You have Alara carrying this immense emotional burden of watching a friend vanish, paired with an impartial, mechanical bird that's simply recording the cold, hard data of a genuine absence. The owl offers zero judgment, just an archive. And honestly, that archive is terrifyingly small. As the nanites do their grim work, there are literally only 3 repositories left of Surbrain's vanishing personal history, whatever external notes were left behind, the cold comparative data inside the mechanical owl, and finally, Alara's own fading tactile memory, the honest pulse mapped right into her nervous system. This violently shifts Alara's role in the story. She isn't just an observer anymore. She's been drafted as the final, desperate guardian of his fading humanity. Which brings us to our final section, the 5-day countdown. So, the crucial point is that as we realize Alara is the final guardian, the pacing of our story radically accelerates. We are brought right back to that ticking clock. 5 days. The 5-day limit named by the shadow archetype is described in the text as both a mercy and a countdown. It is stark and it's unforgiving. Every single full day spent wound in the shape of Big Ben ensures more of the original persona is deleted. This looming deadline forces the ultimate question of the fable out into the open. Is a return to humanity even possible, or will this cold, mechanical permanence win out? Surrounding this deeply intimate tragedy is the underground temple itself, which offers absolutely nothing. Its corridors of compressed centuries provide neither aid nor judgment to the vanishing human spirit. And I really want you to think about how this connects back to us. Consider the fragility of your own identity for a second. What happens when the relentless, indifferent machinery of our own lives, our own daily routines, or our societies begins to overwrite our personal history? Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to end our explainer on. When the final day arrives, when that nanite tide has fully risen and the winding finally stops, who keeps the ledger of who we used to be? Will we have an Alara there to carry our map, or will the clockwork sovereign of time and memory simply erase the pages we had left to write? It's a haunting question, for sure, and one that's going to linger long after the machinery has gone silent. Thank you so much for diving into this dark fable with me today, and keep exploring.